Hello everybody, today we are going to talk about generator expressions. Well, what differs generator expression from list comprehension? Look here. Here we have got a list comprehension, so we use the square brackets that will choose elements from the range of 0 to 400, and then we want only elements that are divisible by 2, so they are even, and we do not do anything with that elements, we just choose them based on that condition. So we have now here even numbers, and we store that even numbers inside that list. But here we have the same expression like here, but we use what? Round brackets. And this thing is called generator expression, and this thing is called list comprehension. Why so? Because this thing is gonna return the generator. What is generator? I think we should check it by looking at code. Let's see what we gonna see when you run this module. As you can see, for the first case, we can see the list of items from 0 to 400, right? So we have numbers. But here, in the second case, we have generator object. What is object? You don't know about it yet because we haven't talked about classes, but believe me that it is something that you can operate on. You can do something with it. And this thing can generate items, values like that, on fly. What does it mean? When I demand it to generate it, okay? When I demand generator to generate something, it will do it. So how to demand it? Well, we can do it by, for example, invoking the next function like that. And as you can see, of course, we need to print it. And as you can see, we got 0, then we got 2. Or we can put it into the loop for. So for each number inside the even number generator, we can print number. And as you can see, now we have all numbers that are the same like we had in the list printed out. And you might be, but why to even care when we have the same result, right? Both of these things gave me the same result, and you have something what is a generator. It's really confusing me. And you're right, it might confuse you right now, but look at this from other perspective. Here, we reserved instantly how many places in memory. We reserved about 200 places in memory for integers, right? But in case of generator, we just reserve memory for just generator, okay? Look, when we import the system library module, and we're gonna do something like that, sys.get size of, like that. Let's take this under the comment. You will notice that we have got 840 in first case of bytes reserved, and in the second case only 48. When we increase this a bit, you will notice that in first case we reserved 9,340 bytes. In the second case, the same 48 bytes. So look, for just printing out values, is it a good idea to reserve so much space in memory? Definitely no. When you want to just print numbers, you don't want to make some operations like connecting lists, or you want to sort these values somehow, you want to do some things with them, right? With these values later in your program, in a few places in your program, right? You don't want to reuse these values. You just want to do something like that. It's 10, like printing out, right? It's 10 times better to just use the generator, because you will not reserve so much space in memory instantly after just invoking something like that. Here are only 4,000 of elements, but imagine there are thousands, millions of elements to go through. This would take lots of time, and you don't have time for that, right? Or you don't want your user to spend time for something like that. In case of using the generator, it would be very fast, right? In case of using this comprehension, it would be slow, and that's not good, right? Now I will give you a very practical example that we cannot do yet because we do not know how to work with files, but we'll learn about it in the future. So imagine that you have a text file, okay, that consists of over 1 terabyte of data. It's a big amount of data, right? And you want to load lines from that file that starts with a word, for example, sample. You want to save these lines of code into another file, okay? You do not want to save these lines inside of your computer memory in the list, because it would take too much space of your memory. Imagine so much data inside of your program, okay? For just the sake of rewriting, compiling all the data into another file. If we had used a list comprehension, it would mean loading the lines into a list. So much data inside the list just for the sake of writing the data to another file, right? Is really this time a reason to save so much data into your computer memory? You just want to pass the data to another file. You don't need the data in the memory, right? In case if we had used generator expression, we would create something like a generator, right, later, and it would allow us to generate items, in our case, lines from the file, right, that starts with a word sample. So generator will not keep all these lines inside of memory. It will only generate the line when we demand it from him. So for example, in the loop, right? So now we have something what generates each line on fly when we demand it. So what makes that solution different? Well, it's important to notice that after saving lines using generator, we wouldn't have access to them anymore, okay? Look here, when we printed the numbers using the generator, we can't access these values anymore, right? Because even numbers generator doesn't allow you to do something like that, right? So you cannot access them. So generators just generate a line, but if we do not save it somewhere, like list comprehension did, we won't have to access to it anymore. But, well, in our case, it's an advantage, right? Well, all in all, we wanted that. We wanted that because of generator, we won't have in our memory something that we don't need anymore, okay? So, to sum up, we use generator expressions when data that we want to process is big, it is large, right? Like, for example, in that file. And when we don't need to save data processed by the expression, like for example here, right? Like we just wanted to print it out. Why would we even care to save it somewhere? We don't use generator expression when we need list methods, right? When we want to access each of the elements somehow, we want to make some operations in many places of our program, like for example connecting lists, etc. Okay, so it really depends on your situation. But for the sake of efficiency, for the sake of having less space reserved in memory, If it's possible, it's better to use, of course, the generator. There is also one very cool thing about generators. There are some functions, like for example sum, where you can send iterable. Generator is iterable. We'll talk about this thing in future a bit more, but when you send here this to the sum even numbers generator, you will instantly have as a result the sum of, well, maybe let's take under the comment of these things, of these instructions. We have just summed all these values instantly. So cool, right? We didn't need to create a loop for to sum all these elements. We just did it in one line. That's really, really powerful. So now go practice and make a generator expression that will choose elements that will come from range of 0 to, for example, 500, and all these elements should be raised to the power of 2, and then you want to sum all that elements. Okay, that's only that lesson. Thank you very much.